Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to another episode of the Talk Room series of podcasts. I'm Wendy, and today we're diving into an incredibly important topic, couples counselling. We'll be looking at the hugely important area of couples counselling, primarily what to expect from, and also how to prepare for your first session. So, our goal is to explore how you can be your best self even when faced with the challenges of relationship concerns, by leveraging the power of counselling and therapeutic support. So, for those who are joining us for the very first time, I would like to introduce my co presenter, Ian. Ian is a senior accredited National Counselling and Psychotherapy Society member and the founder of Hope Therapy and Counselling Services. Hope is a counselling organisation offering support throughout the entire UK for a very wide range of concerns and challenges, including couples counselling, which we are discussing today.
Thank you, Wendy. And let me return the favour by introducing you. Wendy is a highly experienced CBT psychotherapist who's been involved in the field of mental health and well-being for well over 30 years now. We're both passionate about helping people navigate their mental health, their relationship, and their well-being journeys. And today's discussion is a really, really crucial part of that.
Thank you, Ian. So, today's episode is about the first time you actually have counselling as a couple. So, let's start with that. Ian, what exactly is couples counselling?
Great question, Wendy. Thank you. So, couples counselling or couples therapy in its simplest form is a therapeutic process. It's designed to help couples improve communication, to resolve conflict, and to strengthen their relationship more generally. So whether you've been together for just a few months or whether you've been together for many, many years, all relationships will go through some form of challenge. And sometimes those challenges can feel overwhelming, um, overwhelming to work through on your own. Now, therapy just offers a safe, a neutral space where both partners can express their feelings, their concerns, and their frustrations without judgment. And the therapist's role in that is to guide the conversation, just helping you both to explore patterns of behavior, patterns of communication, maybe causing tension between the two of you. Importantly, it's not about pointing fingers or assigning blame. Instead, the focus is identifying areas for improvement and giving you tools to rebuild trust, to manage disagreements, and ultimately create a more fulfilling relationship between the two of you.
Okay.
And what's key to remember is that couples therapy is not just for relationships in crisis. It can be a really important preventative aspect of things too. So it can be a proactive step to keep your relationship healthy and strong before things do escalate. And an example would be people often come to organisations such as Hope for things such as pre-wedding therapy. And it's not that there's anything wrong with the relationship. It's more about a preemptive approach where people just open certain areas up for discussion that maybe wouldn't otherwise be talked about. And that way, both people enter the next phase of the relationship with the really clear route map and an understanding of what the next steps look like. Just to make sure that both partners are completely aligned when they take that next step forward. So, so whether you're facing a specific issue, or maybe things are just a little bit off in the relationship, or you feel it would just be healthy just to explore certain key areas in more detail, couples therapy can be a really valuable resource for growth and communication.
Okay, thank you, Ian. That's a really helpful explanation. So thank you for that. So I'm just wondering, based on what you said, I could imagine that some people may have misconceptions about couples counselling, what it is and how it works. And so, how are you able to address any of those above?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I mentioned just now, one of the biggest myths out there is that it's only for relationships that are in crisis. And many people assume that couples therapy is a last ditch attempt, a last ditch effort before a breakup or a divorce. But that's really not the case. Couples therapy can just be an incredibly beneficial process for a very wide range of situations, not just when things have gone seriously wrong. In fact, many couples seek therapy, as I mentioned just now, as a preventative measure, wanting to just address smaller issues before they become bigger problems for the couple. So maybe communication has been difficult, or perhaps there's been a little a life transition of some description, like moving house or starting a family, and the relationship just needs a bit of extra support. Although they want to explore how the next phase of that relationship will look for both of them, and to make sure that they're both aligned as to exactly what that's going to look like. Another misconception is that therapy is only for couples on the brink of an actual separation itself. But again, the truth is it's equally valuable for couples who are generally quite happy, but just want to strengthen that bond. So some couples come to therapy to improve their physical or their emotional intimacy, maybe to manage stress better, or simply learn new ways to communicate more effectively between each other. So it's really important to remember that couples therapy isn't a sign of failure. Instead, it's a healthy, proactive step that shows a commitment to working on the relationship itself, whatever stage of the relationship you're in.
Okay, Ian, thank you for that. That's really, really helpful. So now we've cleared up some of the misconceptions. Can you say a little bit more about who might benefit from couples counselling?
Yeah, absolutely. So couples counselling, couples therapy really can be for anyone, regardless of the stage of the relationship. So it's not just for those who've been together for years. New couples can benefit from this type of work as well. People that are in the early stages of a relationship, um, when they engage with this type of therapy, it can really help to build a strong foundation, just allowing both partners to understand each other that little bit better, to develop healthy communication habits right from the start. It's a way to strengthen the relationship before major challenges arrive. And that may especially be important if one of you has experienced maybe some sort of traumatic or uncomfortable relationship in the past. Or maybe you haven't been in a relationship, or not for a long while, and are just starting to test the water again. Also, for long-term couples and marriages, separate therapy offers a chance just to address deeper issues that maybe have developed over a period of time. So whether that's due to growing apart, managing life changes, or dealing with unresolved conflicts within the relationship, it's just a space for those people to reconnect, rebuild, refocus on what brought you together in the first place. Also,
Okay.
same-sex couples or members of the LGBTQIA plus community, like any other couple, can face unique challenges in their relationships as well. And therapy can just provide a supportive environment to explore those dynamics as well, without a sense of judgment from the counsellor or therapist that you're working with. So whether it's dealing with external pressures, whether it's about working with identity struggles, or simply working on communication, the therapist's role is to find both partners a place where they can just feel seen and understood.
Okay.
And then couples who are actually considering separation can also find therapy useful. It's not necessarily about saving the relationship, but making sense of where things stand within the relationship. So therapy in that instance can just help couples gain clarity on whether they want to work through the issue or if parting ways is the healthiest option for the two of them. Either way, the process can provide closure and a sense of peace, no matter the outcome of the work that you're doing together. So whether you're just starting out, have been together for decades, or are somewhere in between, couples therapy really has something to offer absolutely everybody.
Okay, thank you, Ian. That was a really useful explanation. So now, can you tell me a little bit more about what people might expect from the actual counsellor themselves?
Yeah, of course. So when you first enter into couples counselling or couples therapy, it's important to know what to expect from the therapist that you're working from. And their primary role is that of a non-judgmental, neutral facilitator. And that means they aren't there to take sides or to tell you who's right or who's wrong. Instead, the therapist's job is to create a safe, a balanced space where both partners can speak openly and honestly about the thoughts and feelings that they may have about a whole range of different things. And a good therapist will listen carefully to both of you, helping to guide the conversation in a way that allows both people to express themselves without fear of being criticised or dismissed. They won't place blame or make assumptions about who's at fault within the relationship. Instead, their focus is on understanding the dynamics between you and identifying the patterns of behaviour that may be contributing to any tension or any misunderstanding that exists. They'll help you to explore those patterns together, encourage a sense of empathy, a sense of better understanding and communication between the two of you, but they'll also hold you accountable for your role within the relationship. And that isn't about judgment, it's about learning and growing as a couple. And it's also just worth noting that therapists are trained to manage conflict. So if emotions run high during the session, they'll work to keep things respectful and productive, making sure that both of you feel heard and understood. And ultimately, the therapist's goal is to facilitate a constructive conversation that just leads to better understanding and hopefully positive change within the relationship itself.
I could imagine that some people might be quite nervous about saying everything to a stranger, especially during the first session. Can you say a little bit more about examples such as confidentiality and how that works?
Yeah, a really, really important question. So confidentiality, a really important part of the process. In fact, it's one of the most important aspects of couples therapy, and it's something that you can expect the therapist to take incredibly seriously. So everything you share during your session is kept private and won't be disclosed outside the room without your explicit understanding and permission. So that means that you can feel safe opening up about even the most personal things, the most sensitive issues, knowing that what's said in that session stays in that session. And of course, there are a few exceptions to the rule, which the therapist will be very, very careful to explain to you right at the beginning. So there will be no surprises in that. So, for example, if there's a risk of harm to yourself or to somebody else, or if there's a legal requirement, the therapist might need to break that confidentiality to keep people safe. But in the vast majority of cases, everything remains strictly between you, your partner, and the therapist. The focus on privacy is a really important part in creating that trusting environment where both partners can feel comfortable being vulnerable, to be honest, within the session. So and it also means that you don't have to worry about your therapist sharing details of the session with anyone else, whether that's friends or family or colleagues. And in couples therapy, you're not being asked to trust each other, but also to trust the therapist with your most personal thoughts, your most personal feelings. So knowing that confidentiality is a really important cornerstone of the process just allows both partners to feel that they can engage more fully and more meaningfully in the work that you're there to do.
Okay, thank you for that. And I'm just wondering if someone's might be concerned that they might be blamed for something that they maybe don't feel good about. Could you explain how a couples counsellor would deal with something like that, Ian?
Yeah, again, a really important question. So, um, and one of the things that often worries couples before starting therapy is the fear that the therapist might take sides. But it's a really important thing that people that understand that the therapist's role is not to pick a winner or to assign blame. Their job is to remain neutral and to remain balanced throughout the process, providing equal support to and understanding as well to both partners. In fact, a therapist's main goal is to create a fair and open space where both people feel heard. Um, they aren't there to tell you who's right. They aren't there to tell you who's wrong. They aren't there to settle arguments in one person's favour or the other. Instead, their work there is to help both of you to understand each other's perspectives and through that to foster better communication, better empathy within the relationship. And even if one of you feels like the other person is at fault for a particular issue, the therapist will tend to steer the conversation away from finger pointing and blame and focus on a more collaborative approach within the work that you do together. They'll help you to look at the patterns that might be contributing to conflict within the relationship and explore how you can both take responsibility for improving the relationship. So if that is a concern, rest assured, couples therapy is not about taking sides, it's about building bridges. And the therapist will guide you towards mutual understanding and mutual growth without playing the role of referee or judge.
Okay, thank you. That's really helpful, Ian. So, my next question is about, could you tell me a little bit more about the structure of the first session itself?
Yeah, a really good question again. So in the first session, you can expect a structured, yet welcoming environment designed to set the stage for open communication. So initially, the therapist will introduce themselves, invite both partners to share a little bit about their relationship, as well as the reasons that brought them to the session in the first place. It's a really important time for establishing rapport and just creating a safe space for dialogue. And during the session, the therapist will conduct what we refer to as an assessment of the relationship, which is really just a way of saying they will ask some questions about the relationship, the dynamics that are at play, maybe some of the struggles that you might both be facing within the relationship. It's not an interrogation. Rather, it's an opportunity just to reflect together on the issues that matter most to the both of you. And the therapist will just help clarify your individual goals for coming to therapy as well. So ensuring that both partners feel heard and feel understood within the process. And it's important to approach that first session with an open mind and a willingness to explore your feelings. For some people, it might feel a little bit daunting to come to that first session, but it's really important just to remember that the therapist is there to facilitate the conversation, guiding you towards a greater understanding and a better cooperation between the two of you. And by the end of the session, you should leave with a clearer sense of direction in terms of the therapy journey, as well as the reassurance that you're taking a positive step towards improving the relationship that you're in as well.
Okay, thank you for that, Ian. That's very, very clear. So I'm wondering, are there any common concerns potential clients may have that maybe we haven't spoken about yet?
Well, we've covered most things, but or most of the main things, but some people have this worry that that therapy, the very act of talking about something, can make the thing worse, not better, and it can lead to more conflict. And it's a natural anxiety when discussing sensitive issues, but it's also important to remember that therapy is designed to create a safe and a constructive space for both parties. And the therapist is there to help navigate emotions that might come out during the work that you're doing there, and to facilitate understanding, not to exacerbate tensions. Another concern people sometimes mention is just that fear of being judged. And again, what I would say is that a good therapist will approach your relationship with empathy and neutrality, focusing on understanding rather than pointing the finger and assigning blame to one or other partner. And that environment just encourages honesty. It allows both partners to express their feelings without fear of criticism. And maybe the last thing I would just mention is it's important to have realistic expectations when you're working with a couples therapist as well. So therapy is a journey, and whilst you may not resolve all of the issues in the first session, each meeting is a step towards deeper understanding and improved communication between the two of you. So knowing that you're not alone in those feelings can just help alleviate some of the stress surrounding the process. But again, seeing it as a journey towards that, rather than I'm going to go to one session and everything is going to be
Of
resolved.
course.
Sometimes we have to work on things a little bit as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely. Yeah, very good point. Yeah. Um, so let's assume that people have decided that they want to proceed with counselling and they're about to embark on their first session. Do you have any tips for preparing them for that very first session, would you say?
Yeah, and again, a really great question. So I think as you prepare for the first couples therapy session, there are several things that we can keep in mind that can just generally enhance the experience of that first session. Um, so first, just consider having an open discussion to the extent that it's possible with your partner before the session about what your expectations, your goals, your focus for therapy is going to be. And that can just help set a positive tone and ensure that both of you are on the same page regarding what you're hoping to achieve from the work that you're doing together. It's also helpful to focus on current issues to the extent that that's possible, rather than trying to unpack everything from your entire relationship all at once. So, whilst it may be tempting to dive into every past grievance, prioritizing on the most pressing concerns can just lead to a more productive discussion in that initial session. And then, if you need to go back further, you can look at those things too over time. But for your first session, just trying to be a little bit more current about things can be a helpful way of just breaking into the discussion. And then it's important to be prepared to engage in an element of self-reflection as well. So, so thinking about your own role within the relationship and being open to hearing feedback, even if it feels a little bit uncomfortable at times. So again, therapy is a space for growth, and sometimes that involves confronting uncomfortable things about ourselves and hearing things that are contributing towards discomfort within the relationship. So just trying to have an openness to that as much as possible. And then finally, I think the last thing that I would say is just approaching that process with an open mind and realistic expectations. So, and this is the point that I made just now, change doesn't happen overnight. And it's important to remember that counselling, that couples counselling is a journey. So being willing to learn and adapt as you go can really enhance the experience and lead to positive outcomes for both partners. So trying to see it as being something we're going to work on over a period of time rather than a quick fix all in one go.
Okay, thank you for that, Ian. So, finally, if someone has listened to this podcast and feels they might benefit from professional help, what should they do next?
Yeah, so there are organisations out there such as Hope Therapy that has a very extensive relationship team. We offer couples counselling in a whole variety of places around the country, as well as working online with clients as well. People are very welcome to go to our website www.hopefulminds.co.uk. There are lots and lots of free resources and information on the website, but you can also get in touch with us via the website as well. We also offer free consultations, so people are very welcome to just reach out, just to have a conversation about things without committing, if that's easier for people. And Wendy yourself, as a very, very experienced therapist who's worked with many clients facing a whole variety of challenges, including relational challenges, maybe just letting people know a little bit about how they can get in touch with you as well.
Yes, certainly, Ian. Yes, if people are interested in cognitive behavior therapy or compassion focused therapy, they're very welcome to get in touch with me via my website, which is called wendycastellino.com. So that's how my name is spelt. So, and again, I offer free consultations if anybody's interested. So thank you very much, Ian, for sharing your insights today. And thank you also to our listeners for tuning in. And just remember, if you are struggling with your relationship, or you just simply want to get clarity over certain points, help is out there, it's available. And just taking that first step can really make a huge difference. So thank you so much, Ian, and thank you so much for our listeners.
Thank you, Wendy, and thank you to everybody.